Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going 99.
This is the 49er Faithful UK show, and this is week 16. The Niners make just about the longest journey they can and head to visit ex-OC Mike McDaniel, now head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Both teams can technically still make the playoffs, but a slow 2-6 start leaves the Dolphins on the outside looking in, and 3 of their 6 wins have come against their struggling, laughable, terrible division opponents, the Patriots and the Jets. So that's basically like starting the season 3-0. There's probably not much at stake, but both teams will be disappointed with their seasons and both will want to get a win. And I'm pretty sure Mike McDaniel wants to have a Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan Kenobi moment with his old boss. I'm Gareth Ellis and I am joined by Paul Hope.
Merry Christmas, faithful.
And Lee Gowland.
There's Najee behind Paul. What's he doing there?
There he is.
Najee, I thought you were working, buddy.
Najee. That's amazing.
Nice cameo from the Naj there.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. How are you doing, guys?
I'm good. I'm going to start with a warning. If you're not over the disappointment and want to wallow in it for a little bit longer, then I would suggest that you just switch off now, because we don't get many games in the NFL season, and I, for one, am not going to go through another 3 weeks of podcasts like the games and the misery we've had over the last 4 to 5 weeks. So I'm not going to be miserable about the season anymore. The NFL never stops, and the 2025 season started after that Rams game in that locker room. So it might not matter, but it is Niners football, and I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to force the rest of you miserable sods to do the same, whether you like it or not. So if that upsets anyone, I'll catch you next season. But other than that, there's going to be some smiles and positivity. Isn't that right, gents?
That is right.
It is. And I'll tell you what, Gareth, you missed out on not watching the live show last night.
I did. I always miss out.
Yeah, we did finish on a positive note, didn't we? I mean, we finished talking about the absolute impossible happening. Because I said to Paul, basically, I said to Paul, basically, look, the way our season's gone, it's not beyond possibility for the Rams to lose out, Washington Commanders to lose out, other results to go our way, and we winning with 10 seconds left in the last game against the Cardinals, and then the Cardinals kick a field goal and win the game and knock us out. That's the type of season we've had. Yeah, that is the type of season we've had. It's never really seemed over until last week.
Well, but
still that 0.1% chance, and just to kick us while we're down, it wouldn't put it past us for that to happen. I mean, realistically, I think we can win out because we've got the team to do it, we've got the coach to do it. It's whether than not to turn up on the day. But to be honest, I think even if we win out, it's going to make no difference whatsoever because that needs to be a perfect storm to get us there. But I'd like to see us go into the off-season with 3 wins. Whether or not that's going to happen, don't know.
Definitely. Because this is the 2025 pre-season.
Yeah, it is, effectively.
That is how we... Well, it's certainly how I'm looking at it. I'm excited for the new season, as always. But, we'll keep the positivity going, won't we? As I said, we don't get many games. Let's enjoy what we've got. And an opponent that I do believe we've faced before in a couple of big games as well. I can't wait to see which you've picked.
Yeah, so I guess that's my segue into Hastily Corner.
It is. No messing about, straight in.
So believe it or not, we've actually only played them 15 times, which is quite surprising. And the Dolphins lead the series 8-7, so it's very, very close. The Niners, believe it or not, have only ever won twice in Miami. The last time they did that was the 20th of November 1995. So it's a long, long time ago since we won in Miami. There's only been one shutout, which was achieved by the Niners on the 16th of December 2001. So we have shut them out once. The first Niners win, believe it or not, was in Super Bowl 19 at Stamford Stadium. And this is the focus of Hastily Corner. So you nailed that one, Gareth.
Hey.
Attendance on the day was 84,059. That's a huge crowd. The Dolphins took the lead through a Van Sharman field goal. The Niners responded with Carl Monroe hauling in a 33-yard pass from Montana before Dan Johnson caught a 2-yard pass from Dan Marino at the end of the first quarter to give the Dolphins a 10-7 lead. The second quarter was by far the highest scoring quarter in the game, with Roger Craig catching an 8-yard pass from Montana to start the second half. Joe then ran in a 6-yard run to put the Niners 21-10 up, and that was quickly followed by a Roger Craig 2-yard run to further increase the lead to 28-10. Von Sharman added a couple of field goals to finish the half with the score at 28-16. So that was a formidable lead we took into the half that year. Ray Wershing then added a field goal early in the third before Craig caught his second passing touchdown of the game to finish the scoring with the Niners leading 38-16, and that was in the third quarter. The fourth quarter was completely scoreless. Joe finished the game with 331 yards from 24 completions, thrown for 3 touchdowns and a passer rating of 127.2. His opposite number, the great Dan Marino, would finish his one and only trip to the Super Bowl, thrown 50 times, with 29 completions for 318 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. The Niners rushed for 211 yards that day, and they had a total of 537 yards on offense. This is in the Super Bowl against the best that the AFC had to offer. The time of possession, they led that by 37 minutes and 11 seconds, almost double what the Dolphins had. And a really stingy Niners defense limited the Dolphins to a massive 25 yards rushing, and they also had 3 takeaways that game. That is your hastily corner.
Thanks, Lee. That was great. I think it's well, certainly it always was available on Game Pass. So good off-season stuff. Yeah, if you haven't gone back, you can go and just go and sit through these games. I remember watching the Super Bowl 19. I'm too young to have seen it as it happened, but I've watched it since, and it was a. I'm not sure if it was a great game, but it was a good Joe Montana game. If you never saw him play, it was a good Roger Craig game.
Yeah, it was.
Who probably I think should have edged MVP, but they never give it to a running back because he had a great game. The thing about it is how much we've moved on in terms of, I think, the promotion and the glitz and the glamour. It seemed to be.
Definitely.
If you watch some of those old Super Bowls, they're quite twee and quaint. I think in their lack of razzmatazz.
Do you know what I remember most about that Super Bowl? How good the ball looked in the air when Dan Marino threw it. Seriously. I mean, there's Dan Marino and Warren Moon. I put Warren Moon ahead of Dan Marino for just that really tight spiral. Every time he threw that ball just looked majestic going through the air. It never, ever wobbled. Marino, Warren Moon, Drew Brees is probably the last quarterback I've watched play thinking, God, he throws a great ball. I know it's sad to say that, but those type of things I remember. I remember watching that thinking, he's absolutely nailed that. He's so good, he's nailed that. That's what I remember about Super Bowl 19, watching Dan Marino throw the ball thinking, that looks like an absolute bullet.
Any memories of that, Paul? Were you born then?
1980.
Too bloody right he was born. He's not that young.
I mean, you nailed it in the group chat. I wasn't sure whether Lee was going to talk about Brock's first game or that Super Bowl. Like you said, when I discovered the sport, Gareth, I went back and watched all the old Super Bowl victories and the stuff on YouTube. Like you said, Lee, Dan Marino was someone that a lot of people pointed out as one of the ones you should go and watch. And it's weird when you say throw the ball in the air. I'm smiling because whenever Tracy watches a game, Gareth, she always says, I can't see the ball. I don't know what you're looking at on the telly. And like you said, Lee, maybe I need to show some of those clips to show a good spiral how it's going. So
no, she's an advanced NFL watcher. Clearly, she's not watching the ball.
Well, that is true, Gareth. Yeah. And it was good of Nadji to put an appearance in. I mean, the rumours going around.
Nadji to put an appearance in.
being sacked or that he's on the plane because the Niners need a new running back. But it's Christmas, Gareth. We had to have a bit of fun, didn't we? Miss you, Najee. Miss you, buddy.
We will, but I'll be half keeping an eye open for a mysterious new Chargers podcast that might be appearing over the Christmas period. So there we go. Shall we let's go into the joy that is injury report. The Dolphins are looking pretty beaten up as well, as a lot of teams are around this part of the season. Their injury report for not practicing: tackle Teron Armstead, defensive tackle Calais Campbell, wide receivers D. Eskridge, Tyreek Hill, but it was his vet day, and Jalen Waddell. Another tackle, Kendall Lamb, I don't know if he is a backup or on the other side, safety Jordan Poyer, and limited Tua, fullback Al Ingold, and linebacker Bradley Chubb. So pretty beaten up on their side. And I'll mention it now. They had 2 wide receivers at practice this week, and Malik Washington and our old mate River Craycraft, who I think might have had possibly 2 receptions during his Niners career, brief though it was. On the Niners side, well, we know some of the big ones. Not practicing this week: Malik Collins, Isaac Garendo, Trent Williams. I think Trent's probably going to be done for the season. I don't see much value in bringing him back. Limited: Dre Greenlaw, Nick Bosa, Jalen Moore, and Malik Mustafa. Others like D Winters are full practicing, so that's something quite positive. Typical beat up teams at the end of the season. Anything that particularly strikes you? I think Jalen Waddell's going to be a good miss for us, and I think
that's if he doesn't play, he will be.
Well, if he doesn't play, from what I read earlier, it looked unlikely. I think with very little to rush him back for, and there was also reference to Tyreek Hill possibly having itchy feet as well.
I mean, you mentioned
that's interesting.
Trent Williams. I think Kyle said yesterday it's unlikely we'll see him for the rest of the season, obvious reasons. And to be fairly, you're handling the news quite well that the Colts picked up another cornerback from the 49ers.
I saw that and I thought,
obviously had great success with the first one, so they've decided that's not a bad...
Exactly.
So sorry, Gareth, I threw that rabbit hole because I saw that earlier.
Can you imagine what Sammy Warren was thinking when he saw that news? Picking up Ambry Thomas. He'd have been thinking, well, hang on here. I got released by the 49ers because they'd rather keep him. And now they've released him. He's come to the Colts. Is he going to get my job again?
And then we could get Womack back. Who knows? It's a Christmas miracle.
Yes.
Yeah, could be.
Exactly.
I mean, the injuries.
That would be a story.
I don't believe we need to rush Trent Williams back. And I don't think we're tanking at this stage, Gareth, but I think we need to be sensible with those players that, as me and Lee said on the live last night, it isn't mathematically being decided yet. We're still in with a 1% chance, but realistically, you called it on the last pod, it needs like a godlike miracle for us to make the playoffs. So don't take risks. You said it a couple of minutes ago, 2025 season starts now. Let those players rest up, and there's no point in rushing them back.
There is very little value. The risk is just injuring players even more. And I'd rather see other people get game time. You're right, it's not tanking, it's being sensible, where you're already looking to the future, because that's what happens. As soon as one season is done, you're looking to the next one, or you should be. Fair enough, they've got games to play. I'm not suggesting the players look beyond the Dolphins, but I think the organisation does. Let's see, you've got some homework for us, haven't you, Paul? Should we start with yours?
A little bit. I mean, we could start with the Dolphins offense, because that's what we normally do.
Do we? That's me then, isn't it?
Yeah, you could do a little bit.
Go on, let's do the defense first. I've been talking too much.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
People want to hear you, Paul.
Oh,
be quiet.
Well, you and Lee did such a grand job. As I said earlier, and on the live, me and Jasmine did enjoy the pod, despite the difficult circumstances in which you were recording it. But the bye-bye Najee Karat at the end. Sorry, Najee. It had us both laughing, so we had to clear up a few rumours. But the Dolphins' defence, Gareth, getting back on track, they are ranked 6th in total defence. They're averaging roughly 308 yards per game. They've conceded 30 touchdowns. They've got a new coordinator this year, Anthony Weaver, 44 years old. He joined the Dolphins earlier this year. This season marks his 20th in the NFL. So he's been 13 as a coach, 7 as a player. Now, he was with the Ravens. So what won't surprise any of you listening is that the defense he's built at the Dolphins is a template of the Ravens defense. So very similar to the Shanahan tree on offense, this Baltimore defensive scheme, which is used by the Seahawks, is seemingly popping up everywhere. And the Dolphins have focused really on that this year. The major in a zone pressure scheme, they've played zone at the 9th highest rate in the league at 75% of the snaps. And they dial up a creeper pressure on 6.3% of those players, which is the 4th highest in the NFL. Now, I thought that was quite interesting, and I'm going to ask you two chaps to join me at this point. Brock tends to play good against zone defense, doesn't he, chaps? So does that give you both encouragement, or are you both a bit wary at this point? Am I leading you into false hope, shall one say?
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. It's going to be a difficult one. As you'll find out when I eventually get through to my score prediction at the end there, I think it's going to be a very close game. I think the defense, the Dolphins' defense, are quite good at shutting down the pass. Yes, they do play zone, which Brock has had a lot of success playing against, but just doesn't seem as though we're clicking at the moment. So I don't see it as a big benefit at the moment.
Fair point, Bob.
But then again, we might end up coming out and having a really good game and actually playing like we can play. But obviously, we've got our injuries there. If we can't establish the run, then it's going to be hard to pass on them.
Yeah, the reason I asked is while the Dolphins don't have a potent pass rush, they do rank a respectable 11th in the pressure rate. They do like these exotic pressure schemes to pressure the quarterback. And the reason I asked, Lee, is when I was doing my deep dive, I went and looked at the game against the Patriots. And people will be thinking, why are you comparing the Patriots to the 49ers? But what they did very well in that game is they took away the mobility of the quarterback. And like you said, they dared the quarterback to pass. And this Dolphins defense is quite sneaky against the pass, which I'll get to in my stats. They do have 2 disruptive interior rushers, Gareth, in Calais Campbell and Zach Seiler. First rounder Chop Robinson has been playing better of recent, but the edges don't necessarily scare you when you're preparing for this defense. And you're watching the game tape, they don't have that elite edge rush that jumps off the page. The 15th in blitz percentage at the moment and 16th in hurry percentage. But what Weaver has done very well, and I think Lee has done some homework on this, is they've spread the blitzes around. And it sounds very simple, but he's worked hard to tie his coverage in with the rush, which straight away, when I was looking at this, I thought, okay, they're not blitzing at a high rate. They're not getting to the quarterback. But what he does quite well is what the Ravens defense did on Christmas Day against us. They mix it up, they disguise it. And I have a feeling that as much as this Dolphins is a zone defense on paper, they're going to look at that game tape that the Ravens did on Christmas Day last year, and they're going to design some looks that Brock hasn't seen. Do you think that's fair to say at this point, chaps?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much a good summary there. I must admit, I've not paid much attention to the Dolphins. They're a better defensive unit than I thought. They've obviously put the draft resources in recently, like I say, with first rounders. But yeah, that's got me slightly less positive now. Thanks, Paul.
Well, I mean, to add the mix in as well, when Ramsey was at the Rams, we all like to laugh at Debo basically owning Ramsey. He's been reinvented at the Dolphins. Under Vic Fangio, he didn't really do a great deal on this Dolphins defense. But what Weaver's done quite well is he's moved him around and he's become an invaluable chess piece on this defense. And that's what struck me when I was preparing for this. It sounds daft, Gareth, but he's very much player-based, and he seems to have learned from his first stint as a coordinator when he was the Texans coordinator in 2020. His play calling was a bit suspect, but the Dolphins defense have been pretty good this year. As I said, 6th overall in total defense. They're ranked 8th against passing defense, 8th against the Russian defense, 6th in red zone, 6th in third down. An area that they struggle is a scoring defense. So on average, they're allowing 22 points per game. So they slip down to 13th. But when you look at where we are in the same rankings, and I'm not going to read them out because I don't want to ruin anybody's Christmas. And the stats don't always tell the story, is what I'm telling myself. But yeah, this defense, they've had some good games, they've had some bad games. I think you said at the start, I think on paper this should have been a great game at this stage of the season, but it's two out of form teams, badly beaten up. And I've got a few areas that I think we can attack, but I wanted to get your two thoughts before I went any further. But that is the Dolphins defense, chaps.
Our two thoughts. That's one each, Lee. My thought is, yeah, we've run out of running backs, and the offensive line has not been great this year. If we're going to be forcing Brock to throw, it could be a long day if this defense is able to give him those confusing looks. It worked last Christmas. It worked against the Vikings at our watch party. Seems a long time ago now. But my hopeful side is that McDaniel hasn't been with Shanahan with Brock. He saw a very different offense when we were running it with Jimmy. I'm sure he's obviously brought up to date, but I think that knowledge might be less valuable than it might have been a couple of years ago. What's your thought, Lee, since we've got one each?
Yeah, so I completely agree with that. I think the knowledge he had of the offense, that's going to change dramatically, because Shanahan, he did change it for Brock. He allowed him to throw the ball more. We're playing a lot less run than what we used to play. So I don't think that's going to make a difference as far as McDaniel's concerned. The defense in itself, you mentioned about Ramsey always following the same receiver. I hope he follows Debo, and it gives us an excuse not to throw the ball his way.
Flo Jennings. So yeah, that's where the threat is, isn't it? So
exactly. I mean, Jennings, Pearsall, and Kittle. I'd like to see them getting the ball a bit more, especially Pearsall. I want to see what he can do before the end of the season, because it just doesn't feel as though we've actually used him that well so far. So I'd like to get to see what he can do. But to me, if anybody's going to win us this game, I think it's going to be JJ.
No, I mean, the reason I was keen to get your thoughts, maybe I shouldn't have been so literal, but teach me, Gareth. I should know better than that by now. The Dolphins, coming into this game, only played man coverage 25% of the time. But I don't think we're going to see that on Sunday, because this year, Brock has struggled in man. Now, a few of the talking heads have put that more on the receivers than on Brock Purdy. But I think it's going to continue on Sunday. I think they're going to dare us to throw, as Lee said. I think they're going to put us in man coverage. They did mix it up week 5 against the Patriots, and the reason I picked that one is because they played more man coverage than their season average. They went to 40% man coverage, and the plan that day was to play blitz man in high leverage situations, to throw them in deep coverage downfield, and it worked. I mean, I said I'm not comparing the Patriots offense, but I'm just going off. They changed their defensive scheme to suit their opponent. And I'm worried that this week, maybe the Niners might be lured into a false sense of security, thinking, this is a zone-heavy team. We play quite well against the zone. That said, bringing it back to the positives, teams have had success when they've attacked the off coverage with a few repeat players by hitting the mesh in a few different ways. For example, something we see Brock do a lot, hit the crosser in the zone void and throwing the rail route out of the backfield versus man. Now, that would be easier said than done if we weren't down our 5th choice running back. If we had CMC, if we had Jordan Mason, this would be a game where I think we'd see the behind the lines throws. But I don't know. Maybe this is a game that Najee wants, where we put it on Brock's shoulders and we say, right, Brock, you're throwing the ball 45 times. I mean, if that's the case, I want him to attack the Dolphins when they're in cover 0 in the back end. I want to see him get the ball out into the flat. I want to see him get the ball out quickly. And one area I think Kittle might come in well, Lee, is if we put him in man coverage and we get Kittle running across the middle, maybe it blocks up that throwing lane. And like you said, JJ can then attack the outside. Or Ricky Purcell. This could be a Ricky Purcell game. Maybe they're focusing on Kittle. Maybe they're focusing on Debo. I think, you look at the stats, Gareth. The one thing that's given me confidence is the rank 26th in drop back success rate on throws between the numbers. And I think this is where Kyle Shanahan's going to say, right, Brock, you want $50, $60 million a year? Go out there, and show the haters you can do it.
That's it. I think make all the throws. I think this could be a game where there's an opportunity for Brock to make a few yards with his legs, punish them a little bit on third down when they're dropping back to try and confuse him. And I want to see him take off and get those yards and scamper safely out of bounds. Keeps the defense honest, and hopefully will make them rethink what they can do. We still have receiving threats. I think I'd love to see Purcell game. I'd love to see other tight ends get a little bit of the action in the past game. I think Eric Saubert's only had like 3 catches or something. So I'd like to see us take this as an opportunity to spread it around, see what we've got, and see what players can do what. There we are. Good. Excellent. Perfectly in agreement. Should we flip over unless we've got anything else on the Dolphins D?
I've got nothing.
They had a good game last week. They held the Texans to only 20 points. So
yeah, they are a surprisingly good defense.
They are,
and they're playing at home. And if they're going to stack the box and force us to throw, I mean, you look at those 4 defensive backs: Fuller, Ramsey, Holland, and Poyer, and that just scares me. So you're talking about hopefully Brock can throw the ball 50 times. That worries me, because if it does go wrong, and it's very possible it can go wrong against 4 quality defensive backs like that, he could come out of this game with 4 or 5 interceptions, trying to force the ball down the field, and that's going to do his confidence no good. It might give us a better chance of getting a really, really team-friendly deal.
Yeah, that might be the plan.
It's not going to do his confidence
that might
anymore.
be the plan.
Yeah.
No, but I think he's got enough experience now. It's not like he's a rookie coming in and you have to nurse him. He wants to be the quarterback. He wants to get the big money and have the team on his shoulders. That's what it means. And it means not throwing those interceptions.
Yeah, exactly. So you make a very good point
but
there.
that's a test. That's a test.
I'm sat here thinking, would we be thinking the same thing about Tom Brady going in against these 4 defensive backs? No, you wouldn't mind him throwing at either one of those 4.
And the key,
that's the type of confidence we need with Brock.
Get the ball out of his hands quick. Those, like you said, don't go deep all the time. Like you said, they've got 4 quality back end there. Take away at the front. The pass rush isn't, I'd say dangerous because it's the NFL, but it isn't getting there like what others are. Maybe, like you said, they're going to dare him to throw deep, right? Go back to what Shanahan used to do. Dare I say it with Jimmy G? Take what's in front of you. I'm not saying check down, because I've seen a few people on Twitter get their knickers in a twist. And our good friend Simon did go to bat. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter, Lee. Simon was, because Shanahan explained about Brock's interception against the Rams, and JJ had got bumped, and there was maybe a call missed by the referee. And I think Simon had tweeted, "This is why I listen to the likes of Shanahan over the blue tick brigade on Twitter." And I felt like saying, "Oh dear, Simon, what have you done?" And when I checked back in earlier, there was a few comments. And you know what Simon's like? He's straight back. He was like, sticking by his guns. But I don't know, Lee. I don't think we want to see him throw 40 or 50 down deep. But like you said, if Brady was coming into this, would we be talking about the worry? I don't think we would. And, there's the comparison for you, everyone. Brock Purdy.
Well, it's
Tom Brady.
It's something to see, and I think that's what we've got to do with these games is get something useful out of them in terms of player development, working out what we've got, who can do what, where they're coming into important contract years, and hopefully, I think have a look around at some of the other players on the roster. I'd love to see Jacob Cowing getting a few targets and actually, being in for 1, if not 2 quarters of the game, and this is where we're potentially resting a player like Debo, because he's kind of had his chance and didn't take it last week. So you do that with rookies. I think the veterans should also follow the same rules. Anyway, should we flip over? Let's have a look at the Dolphins offense. So they like to play with 11 players on the offense. Any questions? No, I have done a little bit more than that. Tua, quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, 73% completion, pretty accurate. 18 TDs and 7 interceptions. So 3 of those were last week. But he has missed a lot of time and he does take a lot of sacks. He is very much, I think, hot and cold. He either looks great when he's in his rhythm, when he's got everything around him. When he hasn't, if you can knock him out of that, he looks poor or ordinary at best. And I think that is what our defense is going to have to do. You cannot let this guy get into rhythm, and you cannot let him make his passes and the short, quick passes easily. He's a bit like a turbo Jimmy, I think, in that respect. And that's a little bit disrespectful because I think he has got the bigger arm, but he excels at those rhythm passes. Who he's going to pass to, that might well be the struggle. As mentioned earlier, Jalen Waddell, he's got 700 yards so far this season, 2 TDs, but he picked up a knee injury against the Texans, hasn't practiced. Again, are they going to rush him back for a potentially dead rubber game? I don't know. Might be time to think about something longer term with him. Tyreek Hill, still doing his thing, still a top receiver, 805 yards, 5 TDs this season. Maybe the only weapon for Tua. But I did pick up a little bit that maybe he'd been vocal on X, Twitter, whichever, and was potentially angling for maybe moving on from the Dolphins, though who knows. And of course, the Dolphins released OBJ 2 weeks ago, so they are struggling for receivers. As mentioned, Malik Washington, he got 52 yards last week, and River Craycraft were the only receivers practicing this week. Could be pretty thin for the Dolphins offense there. Also in the past game, Devon Achane, the primary running back, does have over 500 yards receiving. So look for him on the outlet. And tight end Jonnu Smith has 740 yards, but he has 6 TDs. So look out for Tua looking for him in the red zone. Could be a nice weapon for him there. They do struggle to run the ball. Achane has only got 640 yards at 3.9 per carry. And our old mate Raheem Mostert struggling this season, 244 yards at only 3.4 a carry. It looks like the Dolphins are struggling to run any of the time, and their offensive success is entirely dependent on what kind of game Tua and his receivers are going to have. He has been sacked at least 3 times in, I think, 3 of the last 4 games. So they are a team that can be dangerous on their day, and they can punish a weak secondary. But I think their lack of balance, lack of run game, and lack of wide receivers could see them struggle as they did last week, where they only scored 12 against the Texans. But that's worth noting, saying that's double what we scored on our last outing. So yeah, more cheer and positivity. That's a quick whistle around the Dolphins offense. Hasn't been the potent powerhouse that it was last year. Was it last year? They put 74, I think, on the Broncos. I can't remember ever seeing a game where someone's got a 70 burger. So a lot of that offense is still there, but I think, like us, it's just not happened for them this season for a lot of reasons. And I think their O-line is also potentially more suspect than ours.
Yeah, that's what I saw when I was preparing Lee. That they've got what you said it earlier. Teron Armstead left tackles down. Austin Jackson's out for the season, and his backup at right tackle Kendall Lamb isn't there. What was interesting, you touched upon the non-existent run game. Apparently, they led the league last year in the rushing attack, and they're down to 26th. So, like you said, Gareth, and when you're putting the ball in Tua's hands, don't want to kick a guy when he's down. He threw 3 interceptions last week and lost a fumble against the Texans. So that bodes well for us. But sorry, Lee, I cut you off there, buddy.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is, correct me if I'm wrong, and I really should know the answer to this because I was at that game. But obviously, alcohol played a part in my memory. Was it Richard Carcrash or Trent Sherfield that scored the 74-yard touchdown?
Sherfield. Yeah, first play of the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was first play of the game.
That was your Miami game at Levi's. That was my cup of tea wasn't even ready, and Tracy popped red in the door to hear me shouting at said TV because we were already losing and it was an ex-Niners player. So that's how I know Lee. It was definitely Sherfield.
Yeah. Well, I knew it was one of the two, Richard Carcross or Sherfield. I think the main thing here is that left side of the O-line. The fact you can get to Tua, I think that's going to play a huge part. And because of that, I don't think the Dolphins are going to be a high-scoring offense on Sunday. The unfortunate thing is I don't particularly think we're going to be a high-scoring offense either. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. But that left-hand side of the O-line, that's what we need to attack. And we need to do that really well. Hopefully, Nick is back to a bit of a higher standard than what he was last week after coming back after an absence. Hopefully he's got that sharpness back. And obviously, hopefully Yitar Gross-Matos and Floyd also step up. And I mean, this could be a Gross-Matos game, It could be a Gross-Matos game. If for some reason Bosa goes over on the left-hand side of the defensive line and we've got Gross-Matos on the right-hand side, I think that could cause Tua problems. And if we can do that and stop them scoring, I think we've got it in us to edge them, even though it's going to be a low-scoring game.
I think what's interesting, Gareth, you mentioned about Tua, the interceptions last week came when he was targeting Tyreek Hill. And I agree with you there, Lee, but I think Ward is due a good game. I've liked the energy from Ward, obviously know what he's gone through. Obviously, after he stuck the knife in, rightly so, on he who shall not be named. That's right, Gareth. We're not going to say his name on the show. I'd like to see Ward have a good game. And Hufanga, this could be a game for Hufanga. I think if they're putting the ball into his hands, I think, as my bold predictions will show, I think there's interceptions, and I think we could see a pick six, Gareth. And I know you love a pick six, buddy.
I do. I do. There's nothing about my particular favourite, a big man pick six. So that would be good. A 95-yarder big man pick six.
Yeah, and we said about
will not be one of my predictions.
But no, I think the injury part at this stage, it's just pick your poison, as we were saying, isn't it? I mean, both all lines are beat up, both defences haven't had a great season, both offences. And I like your Star Wars reference at the start, Gareth. Bit of a geek in me there. I like that. I like that, buddy.
So to be fair, as far as our defense is concerned, you have to remember this is going to be the first time that Mustafa and Fanga are going to be a pairing in the backfield.
With Dre, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to have Dre, we're going to have Warner, we're going to have D Winters in the centre, linebackers. And I think our defense will step up. I know there's been a lot made about, we did have a good showing on the last game, even though we got beat, but maybe it's too little too late. The fact that we are basically clinging by the skin of our teeth to a playoff hope isn't going to be good enough to see the defense put up some sort of challenge. I disagree. I think they're going to be motivated. I think they're going to be more motivated by Voldemort than anyone else, because they want to go out there and put on this show to show how good a defense we actually are, even with him missing, because, I mean, he was a spare part anyway. So I think the defense are going to come out here really motivated, really wound up to absolutely destroy the team that's put in front of them, because I think they're going to come out with a chip on the shoulder. They're going to come out more together as a team because of what happened last week. So I can see us stifling the Dolphins' offense quite badly, actually. Yeah. I mean, the more I think about this, I flip-flop with my prediction a few times just while recording this episode. And yeah, I'm now thinking about the defense, thinking we've got this. We've got that. This is a game that we can win, as long as we can establish some sort of run game with like Paul said, our fifth running back, our fifth level running back. And Patrick Taylor, we saw him early on the season, and at the time we thought, well, he maybe actually looks a little bit better than Jordan Mason, and Jordan Mason was playing well at the time. So it's going to be interesting.
It's not going to be a Patrick Taylor game, Lee. It's going to be Israel, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce his surname. However, If he has a good game, Gareth, that might be my bold prediction. I have to come on a show Monday and nail his name word perfect.
Let's have a look. To me, Patrick Taylor looks like the fourth or fifth string running back. I don't think there's a lot of pop in his game. I think some reliability. That's great. Not knocking the guy at all, but I can't see him working his way up the depth chart as some other running backs potentially could. So I think it's going to be a good game for the defense. As you've said, they're going to want to flush the bad smell and bad taste of the last game, and in several respects, they're going to want to get rid of it. And I think they're going to want to show that they're a better unit. And I think they're probably going to want to, metaphorically stick the knife into their ex-player and say, this is how good we look when we've got you off the team. I think there's going to be a lot of motivation there. And I think a lot of players like Bosa have underwhelmed this season. Fred Warner, obviously Dre Greenlaw hasn't played. These guys are going to want to salvage something from the season in terms of getting some personal stats like interceptions, like sacks. I think these guys are going to want that. And I think looking at a wounded, battered Miami team, they're going to potentially look at this as something where they can get a bit of pride back, polish those individual stats. And I think it is important to get a bit of feel good before going into the last 2 games of the season. This is going to be the last big road trip. There might be that last day at school feel, but hopefully they can turn that into something positive. And turn the corner on the disappointing season and look ahead with a good win and a good batter of the Miami Dolphins. And who doesn't like battered dolphin, particularly at Christmas? Anything else on the Miami defense?
Offense, defense, Miami
Either.
offense.
The offense, yeah, of course.
I was just going to say, the only thing, because I wasn't sure when Najee said, I wasn't sure if we were going to have the homework prepared. The offensive line, which I think will be key. I think Bosa eats if it's rookie Patrick Paul playing for Armstead on that right side. And practice squad lineman Jackson Carman struggled. He gave up 2 sacks against the Texans, including that costly strip sack. And we'd love a fast fumble on Sunday, Gareth, especially if it leads to a big man. So, but I mean, I think, like what you were saying, Lee, what we want to see, if we can, the Dolphins have no run game and we're forcing them to pass. And then we've just talked about some of our 5th, 6th, 7th choice running backs for the Niners. We don't need them to come in and be hitting explosive plays. If they can get 3 or 4 yards of carry and do what Brock did a couple of weeks ago against the Bears, where, we passed the ball more, but we ran efficiently. That's what I want to see. So I don't want us to not have a run game. But my score prediction, like you, Lee, I had a very high one. Then I've had a low one listening to you guys. So God knows, by the time we get the score prediction, Gareth, it's probably going to have changed.
We're almost there. We're almost there. The betting lines, the Niners are 0.5 point favourites, and the over/under is 44.5. So people not necessarily expecting a shootout, but they are expecting a close game, or at least the bookies are. Well, shall we have a look at the score predictions? Come on, there's all to play for. We can get that sort of, playoff Super Bowl sideshow out of the way and focus on the score predictions, the real core of the NFL season.
I think the Grinch in the room is Najee Carrara, and I haven't had a chance because I thought he was going to be on tonight. Those points, Gareth. So Najee Carrara has leapfrogged. If Lee just moves that across, I think I'm at the bottom now, Lee.
Oh.
Now, obviously, I wasn't expecting the dirtiest of points, Gareth. So I will go last in this segment. But Najee,
you will.
Who knows? Who knows what he's going to do, Gareth? He's a wild cannon, that one.
So let's just be clear. They're not dirty points. They're filthy points. The Debbie points. That's what they are. Debbie points.
I'm waiting for him to come back in and steal your trophy, Lee. That's what I'm waiting, because he was here earlier. For those people listening, watch the
like
YouTube
I said,
video.
I have actually flip-flopped from the start of this show to the end. So
it's
I'm
two
going to go
inconsistent teams. That's what it is.
Yeah,
I think you don't know really what you're going to get with either team from week to week.
It could be a close game. It could be a blowout either way. Actually, I don't think it can be a blowout either way. There's no way the Dolphins are blowing us out because the defense are going to have a game for the ages. But I started off, believe it or not, with the Dolphins 27-24 win. That's how I started the episode with that written
that's
down.
a little bit dirty.
But then I changed it. I thought, you know what? We might actually do this. And then I was going to go for a Niners 24-20 win. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought how good our defense might be on Sunday. The fact that we've got pretty much a full unit back, I think with the bit between the teeth, they can really turn the screw on the Dolphins. But I'm just worried about what we can do against them. If we don't have a running game, we're forced to throw the ball all the time. I think we'll be able to move the ball, but our red zone issues might reappear.
Is this the longest way round of possibly saying it's a 3-0 Niners win?
Yeah, kind of. So I'm going to go for a Niners win. And I wasn't at the start. But I think it's going to be very close. And I'm going for a Niners win 20-17.
Is it me next?
It is you next.
Yeah, well, you've gone through all the possible scoregamis. I've flip-flopped a little bit, but I have settled on a comfortable Niners win, 23-9.
Oh, that is... You've got no confidence in this offense after you've done the home, as in the Dolphins offense, have you, Gareth?
No.
Wow.
No, it's I've got our defense is going to be angry.
Yeah.
And I think now that the weakest link has been ejected from the building, and we've got one of our strongest links back, along with generally healthy, I think, and a chip against a struggling offense. Yeah, we're gonna shut them out of the end zone.
And we do have a score prediction from Nadji. It is a Chargers win, 25-17, and I do have the screenshot to prove that is exactly what he said. Isn't that right, chaps?
Well, if the Chargers win this game, I think he can get double points.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
so is he not followed that up with a 49ers score prediction?
He hasn't. He hasn't at all.
He's definitely playing the game.
Hey, he's got that silverware in his eyes. I can't believe the Discord faithful listened that much to us that none of them went for dirty points. I was expecting at least someone else. So that was some saving grace. But, you know, Nadji has definitely stuck his neck out there. Chargers win, but we'll have to get an updated score prediction from him, won't we, Lee? Because we can't let him away with that one.
We will. So what are you going for then, Paul?
So I've flip-flopped, but I'm going to go with my original score. And I'm not going to go too long-winded, Gareth. I'm going to say Niners win 30-20. There's method in my madness, so that's where I'm going with that one. But if you look at all the talking heads, so obviously like me, you'll do your homework. The game preview picks, everyone's split. It just people just tend to be flipping a coin. I've seen some people say the same results for the Dolphins, some for the Niners, but I'm not quite in my villain era yet, Lee. I'm at the bottom of the table. I've kissed goodbye to the trophy. I've had my moment of glory, so I'm going down with this ship. Niners win, Gareth.
It's all to play. You're not that far behind. One score bang on.
Yeah, that's it.
And anyone's straight back in it. So.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, that's the beauty about this scoring. It's kept it close all season long, just as it did last season. Obviously, there's a bigger gap between first and last at the moment, but that could all change over the next 3 games.
That is usually because we, other than the people being dirty, we do generally always pick a Niners win. So that tends to keep our points fairly consistent, doesn't it? Because we either all get them or none of us get them. So, but last 3 games of the season, who knows? There might be some more dirtiness afoot yet. Some boldies, some player predictions. We're going to get that big man touchdown. Malik Collins. Interception, and he's going to run it back like a mighty 12 yards and rumble it into the end zone. And there will be much rejoicing for when that happens.
I think
so. I'm going to go for a sack for both safeties.
Ooh.
So Hafanga and Mustafa. Oh, nice. I like that. Defensive ones, not very exciting as such, Gareth. Tua with 3 interceptions and a forced fumble like last week, and I think we get 6 sacks on the day. Just looking at this beat up offensive line, and as you've said, the defense is motivated. So that's where I've gone with that.
I was thinking sacks as well. It's about time. I don't think he's got it yet, but Ronaldo Green needs his interception. I think, and he needs it before the end of the season. So Tua is generous, and it is coming up to Christmas. So I think he's going to snag one there, and he even runs that back for a pick six. Maybe that's why I've got such a good score. It's not actually our offense doing well; it's the defense exercising some bad smells. So anything offensive? Is Brock going to make a pass? Are we going to get a yard?
Well, I've got
going to be a punter's dream.
Given that we're down to our fifth choice running back, I've got Brock throwing 250 yards, Kittle 2 touchdowns, Jennings touchdown. I'm going to say we don't score a rushing touchdown. They're all passing touchdowns this weekend. So that's purely because I didn't know who was playing running back when I prepared this at 12:45 this afternoon. So there you go. It's a George Kittle game, Lee, in my eyes.
So I'm struggling on offense because, as I've said, I don't think we're going to particularly score many. And because of that, I don't think we're going to move the ball as well as what we have been moving it. I would suppose a bold prediction would be Debo gets 0 yards.
I don't know that's bold. I was thinking Debo's been looking forward to Ramsey and a stiff arm. So I could see, now that it doesn't potentially matter, Debo making that pass on the same play that he dropped against the Rams and taking it to the house.
Or maybe Debo doesn't see much action other than kick return, and we finally get a special teams kick return or a punt return, and Debo becomes the most expensive kick returner in the league. But we take a touchdown from Debo at this point of the season.
I'd love to see Cowing get some receptions. Let's see what he can do. I'd love to see him get 4 or 5 targets, perhaps in this game. It's the same with Purcell. Let's start leaning on them a little bit and seeing what they can do.
And we have none from Najee. I would say he is actually at work. He hasn't been sacked, as Jasmine thinks. And for those people who are listening and thinking, what were you going on at the start? We had a surprise appearance from the Grinch. So just go check out the YouTube video. That'll do it justice. So,
do we have anything else? Anything else to cover on this game? Or any PSAs?
Yeah, so PSA. Monday night's review show is not going to be a podcast. It's going to be a live show. Mainly because
news to me.
Yeah. So we discussed. Well, I'm saying we discussed it. I told Paul it's going to be a live show because I'm not going to be able to edit it until at the very earliest the 27th. So a week tomorrow.
Perfect.
So I thought, let's make it a live show, and it'll have to stay as purely a YouTube live show because I'm just not going to have time.
Well, there we go. If you usually catch us on the pod, maybe mix up your routine a little bit, and you can have it on the live on the YouTube. Plus, of course, if you're listening to it on headphones while you're walking the dog or something, you don't actually have to watch the screen. You'll still get the audio. So
yeah, it's just with it being Christmas week and the 23rd of December, win, lose or draw, Gareth. I've decked out in my Christmas attire today because I thought it was the last opportunity to wear it, and then I realised we've got a pod, or a live, shall I say now, on Monday. But yeah, it'll be all good fun. We'll be here to celebrate or commiserate in true, typical UK faithful style.
Well, there we go. You know, the win is always good, but now I think a loss is not really any impact at all, other than edging up for that higher draft pick. So, you know, silver lining.
Yeah, which would be nice. Lining.
Yeah, I think we're about 15th. I mean, it's sad that you start looking at that, but I think that's part of looking ahead. You start thinking, okay, well, that's the middle of the draft.
Yeah, and it puts us in a good position to move up and take one of the best left tackles. I mean, it's an actual going to be a poor. From what I've heard, it's going to be a poor draft for offensive linemen.
Hang on a minute. I don't watch college football, but who is that lad that just won the Heisman? What's he called? Is it Hunter?
He's a running back.
He's not a running back. He's a wide receiver / cornerback, isn't he? The guy from Colorado. Connor Ryan is throwing something at the screen. I'm joking, Gareth, because I
thought he was a running back.
Nah, hey, he's me with my lack of college football. I might be wrong, but I'm sure he's not. I'm sure he played cornerback and receiver. But basically, the reason I mention it, Gareth, is a few people in the group have said, maybe we trade up for someone like that. And it's good to see some trade talk, some draft talk, rather than the clickbait that we've seen elsewhere. And we said on the live last night, Gareth, we're not engaging in there. We want Sam Darnold back, or we want Kirk Cousins back. Brock is the QB we want. Yeah. I'm not bothered about the numbers. It doesn't come out of my pocket. However, given at this stage of the season, I don't think any of us were quite ready for the off-season talk. So
no, he's a cornerback. You're right. He's a cornerback.
But there we go.
I do pay attention a little bit to college football. I just don't watch it religiously.
Not an area of need. It's a shame if it's going to be weak on the offensive side. But there's always there's free agency, and I think we do need players on the defensive line as well. So plenty to choose from, provided the PFF simulator survives Lee's Christmas period, of course.
Well, believe it or not, in the upcoming draft, there is a certain player at NDSU with a surname Lance. But do we go down that rabbit hole now? There's a Bryce Lance who's a wide receiver. But all jokes aside, Gareth, yeah, it is interesting to see people entering that stage of looking at the mock drafts. And we don't want a tank, but like you said, Lee, it's kind of a bittersweet because we've only got 3 games left. If we win out, that does affect our draft position. If we lose all 3. Yeah,
it's looking ahead. There's no point. Or if we play Trent Williams, the only thing we can really do with that is risk him being injured. There's no point for that. So I don't see that as tanking. I see it as looking ahead. So there we are.
To put some respect on his name, Lee, because he is the 2024 Heisman winner, it is Travis Hunter from Colorado. Yeah. Lifelong fan, Conor Ryan's favourite player, Najee Kara. I had to get some college talking for you, buddy. But that was why I wanted to get that reference in, Gareth. We have to have some fun. We
are going to squeeze what fun we can out of the back end of the season. So I think that's it then. We've got the usuals. Thank you to everybody who listens and watches the show, and thank you to you, gentlemen, who could join me and weren't grinching or still trying to clean off the stench of dirty points. Yeah, we know you're not really working, Najee, but there we are. The usuals. Facebook will be off for posting until Eric's post-game reaction thread. Easy for him to say. It's a 9:25 game. Discord will be immediately, I think, straight into After Dark and possibly a little bit of a Christmas party atmosphere to it as well. So it's a good chance to put some smiles on some faces before Christmas. So do enjoy Sunday night's football and go Niners.
Go Niners.
Bang, bang, Nana gang.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, D. Clark. Gareth and Hurst, stiff farm going 99.